The history of military of the Ottoman Empire can be divided in 5 main periods. The foundation era covers the years between 1300 and 1453. The classical period covers the years between 1451 and 1606. The Reformation period covers the years between 1606 and 1826. The modernization period covers the years between 1826 and 1858, and decline period covers the years between 1861 and 1918. Foundation period. The earliest form of the Ottoman military was a steppe nomadic cavalry force. This was centralized by Osman I from Turkoman tribesmen inhabiting western Anatolia in the late 13th century. These horsemen became an irregular force of raiders used as shock troops, armed with simple weapons like bows and spears. They were given fiefs called timar in the conquered lands, and were later called timariats. In addition, they acquired wealth during campaigns. Orhan I organized a standing army paid by salary rather than booty or fiefs. The infantry were called jalus and the cavalry was known as muslims. The force was made up by foreign mercenaries for the most part, and only a few Turks were content to accept salaries in place of timar. Foreign mercenaries were not required to convert to Islam as long as they obeyed their Ottoman commanders. The Ottomans began using guns sometime at the 15th century. Following that, other troop types began to appear, such as the regular musketeers, regular cavalry armed with firearms, similar to the later European Reiter carabinieri, and bombardiers, consisting of grenadiers who threw explosives called kambara, and the soldiers who served the artillery with maintenance and powder supplies. Army. Classical Army. Ottoman Classical Army was the military structure established by Mehmed II during his reorganization of the state and the military efforts. This is the major reorganization following Orhan I, which organized a standing army paid by salary rather than booty or fiefs. This army was the force during rise of the Ottoman Empire. The organization was twofold, central and peripheral. Following a century-long reform efforts, this army was forced to disbandment by Sultan Mahmud II on the 15th of June 1826 by what is known as auspicious incident. Reform on Classical Army. The main theme of this period is reforming the Janissaries. Western military people were imported as advisors, but their abilities to enact change on the classic army were limited. Ottoman Empire made numerous efforts to recruit French experts for its modernization. The French officer and adventurer Claude Alexandre de Bonneville went in the service of Sultan Mahmud I, converted to Islam, and endeavored to modernize the Ottoman army, creating cannon foundries, powder and musket factories, and a military engineering school. Another officer, François Baron de Tott, was involved in the reform efforts for the Ottoman military. He succeeded in having a new foundry built to make howitzers, and was instrumental in the creation of mobile artillery units. He built fortifications on the Bosphorus and started a naval science course that laid the foundation stone for the later Turkish Naval Academy. One example of an advisor who achieved limited success was the François Baron de Tott, a French officer. He did succeed in having a new foundry built to make artillery. As well, he directed the construction of a new naval base. Unfortunately, it was almost impossible for him to divert soldiers from the regular army into the new units. The new ships and guns that made it into service were too few to have much of an influence on the Ottoman army, and de Tott returned home. When they had requested French help, a young artillery officer by the name of Napoleon Bonaparte was to be sent to Constantinople in 1795 to help organize Ottoman artillery. He did not go. For just days before he was to embark for the Near East, he proved himself useful to the Directory by putting down a Parisian mob at 13 Vendémiaire, and was kept in France. Efforts for a new system. The main theme of this period is disbanding the Janissary happened in 1826, and changing the military culture. The major event is Vakariya, translates as auspicious incident. The military units formed used in Crimean War, Russo-Turkish War and Greco-Turkish War. The failed efforts of a new system dates before 1826. Sultan Selim III formed the Nizami-Ced army in the late 18th century and early 19th century. This was the first serious attempt to transform the Ottoman military forces into a modern army. However, the Nizami-Ced was short-lived, dissolving after the abdication of Selim III in 1807. Sultan Mahmud II, Selim II's successor and nephew, who was a great reformer, disbanded the Janissaries in 1826 with Siqald known as Vakariya. The Asakir-i-Manshur-i Muhammadiyya was established as a contemporary modern army. Modern army. The main theme of this period is organizing and training the newly formed units. The change of French system to German system as the German military mission was most effective during the period. The military units formed used in the Balkan Wars and World War I. The shift from classical army took more than a century, beginning from failed attempts of Selim III to a period of Ottoman military reforms and, finally, Abdülhamid II. Abdülhamid II, as early as 1880 sought, and 2 years later secured, German assistance, which culminated in the appointment of Lt. Col. Kohler. However, although the consensus that Abdülhamid favored the modernization of the Ottoman army and the professionalization of the officer was fairly general, it seems that he neglected the military during the last 15 years of his reign, and he also cut down the military budget. The formation of Ottoman modern army was a slow process with ups and downs. Navy. The Ottoman Navy, also known as the Ottoman Fleet, was established in the early 14th century after empire first expanded to reach the sea in 1323 by capturing Karamürzel, the site of the first Ottoman naval shipyard and the nucleus of the future navy. During its long existence, it was involved in many conflicts and signed a number of maritime treaties. At its height, the navy extended to the Indian Ocean, sending an expedition to Indonesia in 1565. For much of its history, the navy was led by the position of the Kaptan Pasha. This position was abolished in 1867, when it was replaced by the Minister of the Navy and a number of fleet commanders. After the demise of Ottoman Empire, the navy's tradition was continued under the Turkish naval forces of the Republic of Turkey in 1923. Air. The Ottoman aviation squadrons were military aviation units of the Ottoman Army and Navy. The history of Ottoman military aviation dates back to June 1909 or July 1911, depending if active duty assignment is accepted as the establishment. The organization is sometimes referred to as the Ottoman Air Force. According to Edward J. Erickson, the very term Ottoman Air Force is a gross exaggeration, and the term Osmanli Hava Kuvvetleri unfortunately is often repeated in contemporary Turkish sources. The fleet size reached its apex in December 1916, when the Ottoman aviation squadrons had 90 airplanes. The aviation squadrons were reorganized as the General Inspectorate of Air Forces on 29 July 1918. With the signing of the Armistice of Mudros on 30 October 1918, the Ottoman military aviation effectively came to an end. At the time of the armistice, the Ottoman military aviation had around 100 pilots, 17 land-based airplane companies, and 3 seaplane companies, totaling 80 aircraft. Personnel. Recruitment. In 1389 a system of conscription was introduced in the Ottoman military. In times of need every town, quarter, and village should present a fully equipped conscript at the recruiting office. The new force of irregular infantrymen was called azabs, and it was used in a number of different ways. They supported the supplies to the front line, they dug roads and built bridges. On rare occasions they were used as cannon fodder to slow down enemy advance. A branch of the azabs were the Bashi Bazouk. These were specialized in close combat and were sometimes mounted. They became notorious for being brutal and indisciplined and were recruited from homeless, vagrants and criminals. Training. Ottoman Military College. Ottoman Military College was a two-year military staff college of the Ottoman Empire. Its mission was to educate staff officers for the Ottoman army. Ottoman Military Academy. The academy was formed in 1834 by Marshal Ahmed Fevzi Pasha together with Mehmed Namik Pasha as the Mekteb-i Harbiye, and the first class of officers graduated in 1841. Its formation was a part of military reforms within the Ottoman Empire as it recognized the need for more educated officers to modernize its army. The need for a new military order was part of Sultan Mahmud II's reforms, continued by his son Abdülmecid. After the demise of Ottoman Empire, the school renamed itself as Turkish Military Academy under Republic of Turkey Imperial Naval Engineering School. The roots of the Naval Academy goes back to 1773, when a naval school under the name of Naval Engineering at Golden Horn Naval Shipyard was founded during the reign of Sultan Mustafa III on the command of Grand Vizier and Admiral César Yerli Ghazi Hassan Pasha. François Baron de Tott, a French officer and advisor to the Ottoman military, was appointed for the establishment of a course to provide education on plane geometry and navigation. The course, attended also by civilian captains of the merchant marine, was given on board a galleon anchored at Kasimpasa in Istanbul and lasted 3 months. The temporary course turned into a continuous education on land with the establishment of Naval Mathematical College in February 1776. With a growing number of cadets, the college building at the naval shipyard was extended. On October 22, 1784, the college, renamed the Imperial Naval Engineering School, started its education for 3 years in the new building. From 1795 on, the training was divided into navigation and cartography for officers of the deck, and naval architecture and shipbuilding for naval engineers. In 1838, the Naval School moved into its new building in Kasimpasa. With the beginning of the Reformation efforts, the school was renamed to Naval School and continued to serve in Kasimpasa for 12 years. Then, it was relocated 1850 to Habi Liada for the last time. During the Second Constitutional Era, an upgraded education system was adapted in 1909 from the Royal Naval Academy. After the demise of Ottoman Empire, the school renamed itself as Naval Academy under Republic of Turkey. Ranks. Classic Army Agas were commanders of the different branches of the military services, like Azab Aga, Besli Aga, Janissary Aga, for the commanders of Asaps, Baslis, and Janissaries, respectively. This designation was given to commanders of smaller military units, too, for instance the Bolak Aga and the Osiak Aga, the commanders of a Bolak and an Osiak, respectively. Bolak Bashir was a commander of a Bolak, equivalent with the rank of captain. Korbachi was a commander of an orta, approximately corresponding to the rank of colonel today. In seafaring, the term was in use for the boss of a ship's crew, a role similar to that of bosun. Modern army nefer. On Barsi, Kavis Mulazi Maisani, Mulazi Mayevel, Use Barsi, Kola Ghazi, Bin Barsi, Kamakam. Murlay is a commander of a regiment. Murliver is a commander of a brigade. Ferric, Birinci Ferric, Musia, Strength, Notes, Awards and Decorations. The category Military Awards and Decorations of the Ottoman Empire collects the individual awards and decorations. The Ottoman War Medal, better known as the Gallipoli Star, was instituted by the Sultan Mehmed Reshad V on 1 March 1915 for gallantry in battle. The Iftikhar Sanei Medal was first granted by Sultan Abdul Hamid II. Order of the Mejidi was instituted in 1851 by Sultan Abdulmajid I. The Order of Osmania was created in January 1862 by Sultan Abdulaziz. This became the second highest order with the obsolescence of the Nisan-i Iftikhar Order of Osmania ranking below the Nisan-i Imtiyaz.